Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Well, here in Perth today it's a bit of a wet and rainy day, so I thought how better to cheer me up than doing an unboxing of this, or should I say an unenveloping. So this has arrived from China. In here there's a pen. What we're going to do, we'll have a look at it, I'll give you my first impressions, and then we'll do some writing samples with it. So join me now down on the mat and we'll jump in and take a look at this brand new pen. So here we are down on the mat. Here's the envelope. Let's unenvelope this pen. So this is nice and easy. End of the envelope. Out comes, well, some bubble wrap. Just put all to one side. So yeah, nicely packaged, nice and hopefully safe. Fetch in the scissors again and get into this bubble wrap. So here we go. Unrolling. And here we have our pen in its little plastic protective sleeve. Let's take it out of the sleeve and we'll see what we've got. So this is the Delike New Moon 2 and the pattern that's in is called Dark Rose. Look at the colours on this. You can see why it's called Dark Rose. Now as I'm slowly turning this, you know, the base colour seems to be quite dark, but then you've got these paler colours which are really reflecting the light. Wow. There doesn't seem to be any flaws in that resin. It seems to be really shining through no matter how I turn it. Oh, the pictures look nice, but when you see it in real life, oh, it's so much nicer. So it's flat at both ends. Reminds me of my Pilot Custom Heritage 92 a little bit. What I believe this pen is modelled on though is a Sailor Pro Gear Slim. Now, I don't have one of those pens, so I can't really say if it's definitely like it. But again, looking at pictures, that's what it seems to be reflecting. If we take a closer look at this, up here on the top, on this cap, it's flat. It's staying with that same colour in there. Then we come down to the silver coloured band. And then again, the silver coloured clip. The clip, oh, it's very stiff. I'm not going to be able to do much with that, I think. Hopefully, after I put it in and out of my pocket a few times, that will loosen a little bit. The cap, slightly tapering from narrow through to wide, in this beautiful pattern. Oh, it's really nice to look at. We've got a silver band here. So that looks like Delike there. And then New Moon on the back. The silver band then drops down to where it meets the body. There's, I'm going to say there's a step. To be honest, you wouldn't notice it. Then we come into the main body. So again, it tapers down, starts tapering here quite more to another silver cap. And then at the end, we've got another black cap here. So let's open up the pen. So it goes half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. About 3.25 turns to take the cap off. For me, that's an awful lot. I like it like between 1 and 1.5. So remove the pen there and look at that. We've got that silver coloured Delike nib. I think that's a number 5 size nib. I'm not 100% certain if it is a number 5 that I can swap with other ones or if it's its own size. That's something I need to do a bit more research into it. But look at that. That nib is so nice. You know, we've got a little bit of an inscribed words there. I believe this should be a fine nib. So from the nib, we've got this silver band here. Now that's like a little step. So one of the issues I'll have, I think, with this is when I'm holding the pen, I hold it real down low. And I don't know if you see, my fingers are actually on that step. So that's something that I need to look at to see if that interferes with how I would normally hold the pen. We've then got a short section. Again, it's keeping the same colour in the same pattern. I love this attention to detail. Coming to another silver cap here, and then if I screw off, we can see the included converter. This is one of the things I love with a lot of the Chinese pens. They have the converter included. It's one of my complaints about some of the more expensive brands where you pay hundreds of dollars for the pen, then you have to buy the converter as well. Let's pop that back on. It was metal fittings, I don't know if you saw that, so this isn't a pen that can be eyedroppered. We've got our threads again in that beautiful acrylic, and then we come into the main body. Lovely looking pen. The colour on this, wow. I think this is going to be a pen that I need to hide from my wife, otherwise it may vanish. But yeah, love this. Not so sure about the size. It seems a little bit on the short side for me, so it might be one I need to post. Does it post? Yeah, it seems that it posts quite nicely. We'll get a better idea when we come to the writing sample. So I'm just going to step away. I'm going to rinse out the pen, rinse out the converter, then we'll come back and we'll have a look at the ink and we'll do our writing sample. So we're back. The ink I'm going to be using in here is a Diamine ink, and it's called Ancient Copper. Now, I wasn't sure about this when I was looking at it before I'd even seen the pen, but now I've seen the pen, I think this is going to be quite a nice match. Let's fetch that close. So the ink's a little bit more brown than the pattern, but I think we'll get away with that. I think it'll look quite nice together. So let's fetch in the bottle of ink. So here we are, Diamine Ancient Copper. Just quickly agitate the bottle. And let's take a look at this. Right, let's fetch in the pen. One of the things I noticed when I was cleaning it out, in the converter, there's a little agitator like a spring, which will help keep that ink flowing quite nicely. So here we go, into the ink, and then up comes that plunger. As you can see, it's done about a half fill. So once we've got it back in, down it goes again, and up we come. And now we're virtually full. So that's like the same with a lot of the converter pens that I use. You need to do it a couple of times to get that full fill. Just going to wipe off the pen, pop the body back on, cap, and let's put this ink to one side. Well, so far so good, looking nice with this pen. But the key, as with any fountain pen, or well, any pen at all really, but certainly with fountain pens, it's one thing to look nice, but does it do its important job? The important job is letting you get thoughts out of your head and capturing them down onto paper. So let's fetch in the trusty notepad. So this notepad, it's by Oxford and it uses the optic paper, so it's a nice fountain pen friendly paper. Let's fetch in the pen and see how it writes. So the pen is a Delike New Moon 2. It's a fine nib. The pattern is dark rose. The ink, Diamine Ancient Copper. Well, so far this is looking really nice. Yes, it's a fine nib, so obviously it's not as wide as you get with a lot of mediums and broads. To me, it's one of the weaknesses of Chinese pens. The vast majority of them only come in fine. So if you want to experiment with different nibs, it's a bit difficult because you're stuck really with that fine nib unless you're able to buy a standard number 5 nib or a number 6 depending on the pen and swap the nib. Out of the box, you're only getting fines. Let's test our wetness. So immediate. Looks nice and wet there. I love the brown tones that are coming through, you know, that orangey brown. And I can see where it's getting that word copper from. Going to wait for 10 seconds. You know, it's starting to dry off quite nicely. Going to wait now for 30 seconds. drying off again. There's still some wetness in there. What we'll do, we'll leave it now for 1 minute. After a minute, still getting a little tiny bit of smudging right up here in this top corner, but more or less dry. So yeah, looking really nice. So not an overly wetting, not an overly drying, but again, depending what you're using it for, should be fine. For the next writing sample, I'll move the microphone down to the paper and we can hear it write. Well, that was quite pleasant. It's a nice smooth pen. There seems to be a bit of stiffness to the nib, which, to be honest, I actually quite liked on this pen because I can feel it better when I'm writing. It was smooth. There was no scratchiness. You know, you couldn't feel it tearing at the paper or anything. The ink went down really nicely. There was that small amount of feedback. So again, you know you're writing. You can hear that you're writing. Overall, yeah, a pleasant experience. So let me just fetch that back into shot. There we go. So the Delike New Moon 2, love it. Love the actual colour. As I said, I think this is going to be a pen I need to hide from my wife because I think once she's had a go with it, it might vanish. A little bit on the small side for me. Let me just take that off. You know, so when I was writing unposted, feels a bit small. I'm going to try it posted when I do a lot of my writing. But yeah, I mean, here I'm just literally balancing it in my hand. Writes really well. You know, there's no pressure on there and that ink is still flowing nicely. Line variation, I don't think it's something I'm even going to be interested in. You know, I'm putting a bit of pressure on there and that's with no pressure. But I haven't bought this pen for line variation. And you can see actually that here, the first 5 where I was pressing, the ink's come out a lot darker. Whereas here, we've got a lot more of that character to the ink. Love the pen though. My first impression of this, well worth buying. Now in terms of money, this only cost me 18 Australian dollars. You know, you get such a gorgeous looking tool because that's what your pen is. It's a tool for $18. And I can see this going into my array of pens and going into my everyday carry lists and being used for a long time. As I say, provided the wife doesn't abscond with it first. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please hit that thumbs up button, give me a like. Have you got this pen? Have you got one similar to it? How about some inks? What inks do you reckon I can try in this as well? Let's jump down into the comments below and let's kickstart that conversation and chat about the pens and the inks that we all love. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.